Collins decided recently that he didn't like his old trench coat anymore, that he needed a new one. But the thought of just throwing away the coat bothered him. After all, it's more than a trench coat. It's a reporter's best friend.
You must remember this.
The trench coat. In the 30s and 40s, Vogel loved them. Today, they're one of the most popular items of outerwear in any men's store.
Our sales show that basically, and that's the industry norm for that matter, is that we sell about 2 to 1 of the trench coat double-breasted style as opposed to the single-breasted winter coat.
For those of us in news, the coat is much more than just a necessity. It's a uniform. It has literally replaced the hat with a press card in it as a symbol of the craft. It's come a long way from its inception in World War I, designed by a company called Burberry for British officers to wear in the trenches.
And my coat has come a long way, too, since I first bought it back in 1979. Oh, sure, some of the buttons are gone, but the journalistic memories live on.
Like the time Frank Sinatra didn't give me an interview, or the day the newsroom hinted that maybe I needed a new one. Oh, I know what they were thinking when they sent me down that ski slope. Maybe he'll tear it.
And see this spot here? It takes me back to a special day last September. I was here in the dugout with Pete as he was about to step up to bat and make the greatest hit of all time. Sweat was pouring down his face. He reached for a towel, none was around. I said, "Here, Pete, take my coat."
And the rest is history.
So now it's over. And where do old trench coats go? Why, to here, the Trench Coat Hall of Fame. Names like Murrow, Cronkite, Peter Grant, and others. And mine's over here. And as you can see, some coats are placed in more prominent positions than others.
As time goes by.
Michael Collins, News 5 Tonight.
It's remarkable.
Do you believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's breaking me up.
It's sad. A trench coat will be the perfect weekend weather.
Oops, empty tanks, and a willingness to wait. And wait they did in the latest edition of the great radio station Gasoline Wars. News 5's Jeff Hirsch visited the front lines.
The sound of a car in desperate need of gas. A whole lot of cars, desperate or otherwise, lined up all day at Mike Fair's mobile station on Galbraith Road. The reason? Cheap gas. Real cheap gas.
19 cents is a heck of a lot cheaper than it usually is.
That's right, 19 cents a gallon. The low price, part of a radio station promotion by Q102. The line was long, the wait was longer. How long you been waiting?
About 5 hours.
That's right, 5 hours. Of course, not everyone will wait that long. The guy who thought this up wouldn't.
Me personally, I don't know. I'm probably too lazy to do it. I'd hire somebody to do it for me, I guess.
The cop directing traffic wouldn't.
No. And I have a Honda, no.
In fact, the guy who owns the gas station wouldn't.
No way. No way.
You know, when you think about it, you really lose money waiting in line like this because you'd save about $7 in gas versus the regular price. But if you figure your time is worth the minimum wage, multiply the minimum wage times the number of hours you waited, you were in reality coming out behind. But that didn't seem to bother people. They came here anyway.
Some needed help.
I ran out of gas down there right underneath the overpass.
And what'd they do?
Push me.
Others needed more help.
I've been waiting 4 hours to get up here, and my battery died on me, and I'm almost to the door.
But everyone who did make it agreed it was worth it.
And I have nothing else better to do today.
How's that again?
Nothing better to do.
That's what I thought you said. In fact, I think there might be a song in all of this entitled, Take This Car and Shove It.
Come on, take your foot off that brake.
Jeff Hirsch, News 5.
I hope that lady wasn't trying to get lottery tickets today, too.
No, she's had a bad day. Runs out of gas, poor battery. Well, the weather didn't have a good day either, did it?
Well, no, not really. I thought it was going to shape up and look like opening day did last year. Remember that?
Finally tonight, Reds owner Marge Schott and her ever-faithful companion Shotzi are making their comic debut on the David Letterman show this evening. And as News 5's Michael Collins tells us, it was a big day in the Big Apple.
Monday, 4:45, New York City, Rockefeller Center, the beginning of what we'll call Shotzi's Big Adventure.
Start spreading the news.
Now, what you see on the David Letterman show is the end result. This is what leads up to it. First, it's apparent Shotzi is not nervous.
Hi, Marge. Robert Morton.
Hi, Robert.
Good to
How
see
are
you?
you? Nice
How'd you make out
to see you,
today,
too.
all right?
Okay.
Next, a meeting with the segment producer and the question, what is this duo doing here for the union scale, $490?
I don't know what we're doing up here. They've been calling, and of course I had to come up to New York anyway, and I think it's really the dog they want.
I don't remember even who brought it up, but one of the staff saw Marge on an interview and said, Jesus, she's great. What a character. She's colorful, and she's a woman, and she's got a great story to tell, and it's baseball.
Next stop, makeup, the smell of the grease paint, the roar of the crowd, the bark of the dog, and then on to station number 3. Now, this is the green room. This is where the VIPs wait to go on the air. Normally, I wouldn't be allowed anywhere near here, but I know Shotzi. Station 4, David Letterman. And the shocking revelation, Shotzi is with pups.
So we're not sure. They say if their nipples get larger.
Marge.
What?
How'd it go, you ask? Well, judge for yourself tonight at 12:30. Could this lead to a guest shot for Shotzi on Miami Vice? Could Marge replace Joan on Johnny's show? Michael Collins, News 5 Tonight.
Shotzi looked totally excited to meet.
An attendance record was set at Riverbend tonight. It broke the record that was set last night by the same artist, Detroit rock and roller Bob Seger. And as Michael Collins reports, it's what Seger doesn't do as much as what he does that's kept him on top.
You probably haven't read a whole lot about Bob Seger. His lifestyle is pretty much like his music, basic. No hanging out with Rod Stewart or Michael Jackson or Brooke Shields, and no llamas in the bedroom.
Just a home kind of guy. You know, I've always had a lady in my life, and always been sort of a homebody, really.
Do they know much about you, those people who come to see you?
That's a good question. I think there's a sort of an ethical thing, set of values is a better way to put it, that runs through my lyrics and has been for like years. And maybe they identify with that, and maybe they just identify with the beat, I don't know.
It took Seger 11 years to achieve this kind of success in small clubs and high school gyms. And while struggling to the top, he was watching other artists with gimmicks and lasers and painted faces come and go.
I've seen so many people come up and down in 22 years. When Michael Jackson had a gigantic record, it was just, it happened, you know, it was great, good. The Bee Gees back in the 70s, you know, had that gigantic record, and Fleetwood Mac and everything. And they go up, they go down, and we just sort of keep going along, you know.
Michael Collins, News 5 Tonight.
Yeah, I guess he keeps going along.
So far, 3 Marines have been arrested in that case, but given that, the Pentagon's not taking any chances.
Closer to home tonight, there's a publication in our area that is about to celebrate its 3rd anniversary. Michael Collins reports on the Night Beat that not only has it withstood the test of time, it's withstood the test of youth as well.
Edson Lane is a well-informed neighborhood. Some read the Post, some read the Enquirer, but all read the Edson Lane News. The Edson Lane News is a publication that has been in existence some 3 years now, which is surprising when you consider that this is a day and age when newspapers all over the country are breaking up and going under. I mean, even Lou Grant is a high school principal now. The paper is published in this newsroom, which also occasionally serves as a basement, by reporter Larry Weinheimer, 11, reporter Dan Marina, 13, and the founder and editor and reporter Steve Bailey, 12.
Every issue becomes better. The pictures and the stories become better.
Some of the stories are features and some are hard news, like the day a neighbor was choking.
The fire trucks went down the street, and I grabbed a notebook and a piece of paper, and I went down and I asked the fireman what happened, and then he told me.
On any given day, you'll see these kids covering the street for stories for their weekly summertime deadline. And although Steve says he wants to be a reporter when he grows up, he's obviously not quite ready for a total journalistic commitment.
Would you be willing to go to jail to protect your sources?
Nope.
But he has kept this paper going for 3 years, something most kids couldn't do. And in a day of newspaper mergers and hostile corporate takeovers, Steve Bailey isn't worried a bit.
Well, are you concerned about Rupert Murdoch?
Who's that?
And how would the Edson Lane News end this story?
A newspaper is fun, exciting, and isn't that hard to start. This is Steve Bailey, News 5 on the Night Beat.
Aw.
Good job.
It isn't so tough to start a television station either. That kid's got a future.
That's true.
They have
That's
my
true.
job. Up next on News 5 tonight, a strange leader in the Masters golf tournament.
And if you're hoping to get some sun this weekend, you could be in for a surprise. We'll be right back.
It seems like all the news this year is about strikes. The director's strike, the NBC strike, the football strike. No wonder I had this nightmare.
Quick, I need a photographer to cover the mayor. You know, a cameraman.
Michael, we don't have any.
Now, this whole thing could be a bit disenchanting. I mean, I got into this business for the glamour. This outfit alone cost $100. Now, everything a photographer wears is portable, even the light. It's like a miner's life. And like a miner, I went mining for news. The story, Mayor Luken's reaction to Columbus Day, which, by the way, is Monday. As I began to shoot, I began to understand why you never saw Frank Capra in any of his own flicks.
If Columbus has a day, why doesn't Cincinnati have a day?
Michael, I don't think you understand. Christopher Columbus was the guy that discovered America. He's not really anything to do with the city, you know?
So far, so good. My next problem, then, is getting the mayor to shoot me asking him a question.
So then, what do you think of Christopher Columbus? Wait a minute, one more thing. Let me nod approvingly for a minute, okay?
As he answered the question, I could feel myself confidence growing, so I went in for the zoom.
Always enjoyed the Nina, the Pinto, and the Santa Maria.
And finally, the closing stand-up.
At the mayor's office with the mayor, this is Michael Collins, News 5 on the Night Beat.
I suppose I can assume this won't be on the network.
Well, I don't.
I think that's a good assumption. Oh, our apologies to the mayor.
Yeah, we should apologize to us for that. Still ahead on News 5 tonight, the cards.
Currently, another film, 8 Men Out, is being filmed in the area. Tonight in Michael Collins' World, we found out what it's like to be on the silver screen.
Life as an extra for a movie in Cincinnati starts early, about 7 a.m.
Hi, Mike.
Oh, listen, I can't talk now. I'm on my way to be an extra in a major Hollywood motion picture.
Oh, I'm in that too.
You make up your mind, I gotta hurry. I have a part as an extra in a major motion picture.
Well, by 7:45, it's apparent there's more than just a few of us local extras. By 8 in the morning, the crew has been working for hours at the train exposition in Covington.
John Rubino? No. Okay, you're behind. Right over here.
And a handful of Cincinnati's 200 extras being paid $20 apiece are getting ready. Now, these are just extras, but remember...
Richard Dreyfuss was an extra in The Graduate.
While Charlie Sheen's in makeup, I'm told about my new haircut.
Up around here, you know.
Yeah. Will I look good in it?
Yeah.
In actuality, we're dealing with the Ollie North look here, and I know it looks stupid, but remember...
Robert Wagner. You know Robert Wagner. Shot out as an extra on The Gumby Show.
After getting your costume, you sit with other extras till about noon, really doing nothing except talking about our stupid haircuts and how we got here to begin with.
Our company did upholstery work for some chairs that are going out on the train, and we just asked them if they needed some extras, and they said yes.
One of the extras gets a speaking part.
Come on, Happy, catch the ball. That's about it.
Most of today's shoot is centered on this train car, dialogue around a poker game.
Now, my job is to sit in this chair and read this magazine, and I gotta do it right. You never know. This clip may be on the Oscar presentations.
Yeah, I know it doesn't seem like much of a part now, but remember...
Marlon Brando star as an extra.
I read that magazine for about 2 hours in 90-degree heat. How'd I do?
You're doing better than the Cincinnati Reds at the moment.
So what does this mean? What can I look forward to?
Now, I'm not talking about a major Oscar, but do they ever award like a lapel pin or something for an extra actor, you know what I mean? A tie tack or something?
We can get you a cup of coffee and a haircut.
After getting a look at the haircut, I decided to pass on the coffee. Michael Collins, News 5 on the Night Beat.
Michael will have more of his Hollywood adventure in Cincinnati tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. Tonight we continue our look at the Cincinnati filming of the movie 8 Men Out about the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Tonight, Michael Collins' World takes a look at the way the story is being told and, of course, the revisions he'd like to add.
Yesterday, I got a bit part in the movie 8 Men Out and got a free haircut. The bit part is over. The haircut lingers on. But as you can see from these pictures of the 1919 Cincinnati Reds, this was the style. The movie deals with the Reds team, but is about their 1919 World Series opponents, the White Sox.
It's the moment when baseball was really in danger of being out because the belief of fans was so destroyed that the greatest baseball team of that time, the Chicago White Sox, threw a World Series.
Director John Sayles, who plays one of the leads in the movie, wrote the screenplay 10 years ago.
Having been on a lot of athletic teams, there's always a political dynamics and social dynamics of a team. And this is an extreme case of that. This is a case of the best team baseball had ever seen, up to that point probably having the worst morale of any team up to that point. And how did that happen?
It happened because of money. The White Sox were grossly underpaid and vulnerable to gambling payoffs. One of those in the conspiracy never to play again was this man, Joe Jackson.
Jackson was a cinch Hall of Famer. He had the third highest lifetime batting average behind Ty Cobb and Rogers Hornsby. Gives you an idea.
But one thing the movie 8 Men Out does not do is pay homage to the one team in the series that played it straight, the Cincinnati Reds. Not only did they win the series, they were ugly. And I'd like to believe that the Reds won because they were just too strong.
But even if some of the White Sox did take the money, what's the harm in that? I mean, this year's Reds could have used a few more Joe Jacksons. Michael Collins, News 5 on the Night Beat.
And finally tonight, a local gal who is dreaming of wearing a Reds uniform. No, she doesn't think she can hit like Barry Larkin, but she does think there's a job for her. News 5's Marty Perrette reports on the Night Beat about a young lady who wants to be a Batgirl.
Like most other Cincinnati kids her age, Melanie Lamb is a die-hard Reds fan. But she thought it was pretty strange that the Bat Boys and Ball Boys at Riverfront Stadium are all boys. And she's out to change that. She's asking the Reds to put her in uniform.
I think Marge should open up the doors for baseball. To girls instead of just boys. They've had black players and women reporters allowed in the clubhouse, and expansion and night games, and I think this is one more thing they should put into baseball.
Melanie's written Reds owner Marge Schott twice. This letter's going in the mail tomorrow morning. Marge says the problem would be in the clubhouse, where Bat Boys have to be, and where players are many times without their uniform, headed for the shower. Melanie says it could be worked out. The Reds have 3 Ball Boys and 2 Bat Boys. Tonight at the ballpark, they were doing what they do best. What do they think about sharing these duties with the opposite sex?
Sort of be hard to be in the clubhouse because the guys, they walk around all the time. But I don't know. I guess you could.
Sometimes a guy will rip his pants and like to change down here and stuff like that. It might be a little awkward.
Most of the fans in the stands we talk to say yes to a Batgirl.
There are women doing what have been perceived to be men's job for a long time now.
Well, they don't think she could go in the clubhouse because they're naked.
That's the men's problem, not hers.
I talked to Marge Schott about this tonight. She says she's sure a girl could do the job, but she says it'd be very difficult for a girl to work in the clubhouse. And she says if the city can't build a stadium club here, it's certainly not going to build another clubhouse. Marty Perrette, News 5 on the Night Beat.
We'll always see. Progress you never know.
That's true. Well, that's all our time to be with you. Thank you for being with us.
I'll be sure and join Lauren Chesley and the rest of the News 5 team tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. Till then, good night.
As Michael Collins reports in his series on Homegrown Stars, he is someone who had a pretty good idea where he was going from the very start.
And the talented young fellow that you're about to meet now, a young guy by the name of Andy Williams.
I'm playing the field.
It was Steve Allen's old Tonight Show that introduced Andy Williams to the rest of the world, but it was more than a decade earlier that Cincinnatians got to know the Williams brothers on WLW Radio.
That was back when the family was living here at 3448 Alta Vista in Cheviot. They had moved here in 1942 so the brothers could star on the Time to Shine Griffith Shoe Polish show.
I sang a mother song every morning.
A mother song?
Sang more mother songs. I sang every mother song ever written.
We're knowing we will have a happy day.
Andy Williams has appealed to families ever since, like this 1968 Christmas special where the Osmond brothers met the Williams brothers. The Williams family started singing in Walled Lake, Iowa, the sum total of the local church choir. But by the time they got to Cincinnati, Andy was 14 and going to Western Hills High School. He picked up some Cincinnati characteristics right away.
Started drinking beer because everybody in Cincinnati seemed to drink beer. Up until Cincinnati, there had never been any beer or alcohol in our house. And as a matter of fact, when we moved to Cincinnati, one of the grocery stores near their family grocery store sent over some food basket. And I remember they sent a case of beer, which my father and mother opened up and poured down the drain. So that's how far away from alcoholics this family was. But we soon became beer drinkers and lovers of beer. I still love it.
While here, Williams joined a Western Hills High School fraternity. He met a girl by the name of Elaine Evans, and the two of them used to hang out here at Phillips Pool.
I remember one day lying out there with Elaine Evans getting some sun and listening to the Battle of the Baritones, Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby. Everybody was discussing who was the best singer. Then I knew pretty much, and I was about 14, I guess, that I really wanted to be a singer.
Many moons have passed away, and still she's in my heart.
And that's what Andy Williams has been doing ever since, including a decade as a star of a top-rated variety show on NBC. But when Andy Williams thinks back to Cincinnati, he talks of
a lot of wonderful memories. I had such a good time. I never imagined having that much fun going to school.
Michael Collins, News 5 on the Night Beat.
Lord save us from all those high school yearbook pictures.
I know. I hope.
Got a little too exuberant today. He's in the hospital tonight after falling from the stands. In this video that was taken by a fan in the stands, look to the left of your screen, and you'll see Joe Terasaki fall about 20 feet from some seats near the Bengals tunnel. University Hospital tells us Terasaki is now in serious condition. He is the third person to tumble from the stands this season. I'm Clyde Gray. Next on News 5 tonight, the Redskins blew it, but the Bengals turned this missed field goal into one of their own and a division championship. One fan got a little over-enthusiastic and fell from the stands. We'll find out how he's doing. And we'll check in with last-minute Christmas shoppers and shopkeepers who are counting on your bucks to keep their sales in the black. Those stories, plus a slippery, snowy night. Steve Horstmeyer has the forecast. And Fernald workers are headed back to work. All next on News 5 tonight. Too excited at the end of that game and is now in the hospital after falling from the stands. We can see the accident happen on this home video shot by a fan. As Icky Woods ran off the field, you can see Joe Terasaki fall about 20 feet from some seats near the tunnel. That'll be on your left. Terasaki, we understand, there he goes. Terasaki, we understand, is in the neurosurgical intensive care unit at University Hospital. He is in fair condition right now.
In other news, fears about the Fernald plant are bringing a 66-year-old tradition to a screeching halt tonight. Fort Scott, our area's only Catholic camp for kids, is shutting down. Those who run the camp, only 2 miles from Fernald, say it's just not worth it to take any chances. News 5's Marty Peratt shows us how this decision touches thousands of lives.
Fort Scott Camp has meant nothing but joy to more than 150,000 campers over the past 66 years. This is the oldest Catholic youth camp in America, but now it's closing for good. The Fernald uranium processing plant is only 2 miles away, and even though soil and water tests show no contamination, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati doesn't want to take any chances.
I think it is the lingering uncertainty around Fernald and the things that are happening at the feed material processing center.
This is usually the time of the year at Fort Scott when they're getting the pools and the cabins ready for the kids. But not this year. They're too busy putting up gates and no trespassing signs. Those signs are everywhere now, and so is the barbed wire to keep people out. This is a sad day for the Polinelli family. 4 of Roger and Marlene's children went to the camp, and little Gina had a gift certificate to go this year.
This was more than just a summer camp. The kids were a real family, and I don't think that we're going to find a camp that has as much to offer with the same type of Christian atmosphere.
Some people who live close by say it's a shame to close the 204-acre camp. One neighbor says the Archdiocese is just reacting to unconfirmed fears about Fernald. They think this quiet campground is safe for kids. But the only signs of life now are a few cows grazing on the caretaker's mini farm. For the first summer since 1922, there will be no laughter echoing from Fort Scott. Marty Peratt, News 5.
The Archdiocese hasn't figured out what they're going to do with Fort Scott. Another Catholic camp is closing along with Fort Scott this summer, Marydale and Erlanger. About 4,000 kids normally attend those 2 camps.
Children here for a total...
Tomorrow, final preseason game is Friday night, and win or lose, the Bengals will still be an international attraction. Our lonesome George Vogel has the story of the Bengals fans across the sea.
Bengal fans come from all over the tri-state area, but rarely do they come from across the Atlantic Ocean. About 200 miles north of London, England, lies a town named Huddersfield. And from Huddersfield comes Peter Anstock. Pete had visited Cincinnati 2 years ago during the NFL strike. He fell in love with the Bengals, but suffered along with everyone else through scenes like these. 1 year later, he was able to come back to Bengal land.
When I came back to Cincinnati, I've been, followed the Bengals all the way through this the Super Bowl, and it was a great time.
Pete's such a big football fan, he drove all the way here to New Orleans to watch the Bengals play the Saints in preseason football. Heck, I know people who wouldn't walk across their own street to watch preseason football. Pete made the trip with one of his Cincinnati friends, Steve Sabo. Talking football with Steve is easy for Pete, but if he has to talk to someone from England about American football, it can get tough. Of course, they're used to soccer, and in soccer, the game clock is rarely stopped.
I told my father that the game is like 3 hours long, and he's like, the clock only goes for an hour. And, he can't believe that there's so many stoppages, and that's kind of a strange thing.
And while Pete's had a good time here hoisting his Bengal umbrella in enemy territory, he'll soon be returning to England. But he'll still have good reason to root for the orange and black.
There's a guy in England who's a San Francisco 49ers fan. He's the only person I've ever seen. He's from my university, and he's got a 49ers jacket. So I'll be back there now with a Bengals jacket, so that's going to cause some rivalry there.
Imagine that. Someone sticking up for the Bengals 4,000 miles from Riverfront Stadium. Cleveland should be so lucky. I'm George Vogel, News 5 Sports.
Bengals have a lot of fans. Queen and the Queen Mother, I understand, are big Bengal fans.
Reginald?
Yes.
Reginald, I'm sure there's a Reginald.
Well, another book that's just hit the stores is an autobiography by Nancy Reagan. In it, the former First Lady answers some of her critics. And tonight, Michael Collins' World reviews the book with some local critics.
Here it is. It's called My Turn. It's an obvious reference to books by others. Now, there's some startling stuff here, but it's no catcher in the rye. About the president, he's a romantic, and the term ITWWW, well, it's not a union that went for Mondale.
Often he writes at the bottom, ITWWW, which stands for...
In the whole wide world, as in, I love you more than anything in the whole wide world.
Sounds like a romance novel, huh?
Uh-huh.
On meeting the First Lady of Russia...
From the moment we met, she talked and talk and talk. My fundamental impression of Riza, that's Gorbachev, isn't it, was that she never stopped talking.
And on daughter Patty, Nancy says...
I was a nervous mother, and Patty was a difficult baby from the start.
She demanded constant attention, and as I look back on it, I think we gave it to her too often.
There were also problems with eating. Sometimes after she had been fed,
she would lean over her high chair and throw up. That was lots of fun, as you can imagine.
Do you think this book should be required reading in school?
No. Well, kids, ain't nothing wrong with this book. No. That's life. If you don't throw up, you're not human.
Would you guys see the movie?
I'd check it out,
I'd try it.
Are you would you want to read this book?
If a picture is in, I read. I write see half. But if no picture, I don't read.
Oh, okay. So basically, this book is a combination of politics, movie stars, Ouija boards, and colic. Let's just call it a romance novel. But with all the people Nancy talked about in this book, the obvious question is, whose turn is next? Michael Collins, News 5, on the Night Beat.
Not our turn.
Not our turn.
You should read it.
It's interesting reading.
It is. Yeah, don't believe the people that just read that. I mean,
well,
they
he just read them.
lines,
yeah, and you take it out of context and.
Right. Otherwise, people think we're picking on.
Right, we're not.
We're not. We're not. It's a very good book, and everybody should read it.
You done?
Yeah.
Coming up next on News Anywhere. Sellout crowd at Riverfront Coliseum are probably talking nonstop about Paul McCartney today. The former Beatle brought his world tour to Cincinnati, and judging from the reaction of his many fans, it was a night to remember. News 5's John Lennon got a chance to interview McCartney before the show, and he spent some time backstage as well. Quite a thrill.
We got to talk to band members, and then McCartney came by, walking by after a sound check on stage, and we got in a couple of questions about his voice, his music, a possible reunion with George Harrison and Ringo Starr. Here's part of what he had to say about an hour or so before the big show.
I'm sure I'll get back together with George and Ringo and play some music, but everyone then says, oh, it's a Beatles reunion, and obviously without John there could never be that kind of thing. But I'm sure we'll get back together and play some music some point.
It's been a hard day's night.
Anyone who remembers the excitement McCartney and the Beatles created in the 1960s will be happy to hear that. It would be the kind of thing that gives a sense of time and history and moment. At this moment, McCartney and his specially formed World Tour band are going hell for leather, as they put it, pushing Paul's new material like last night's opener, Figure of Eight. But much of the show features many of the songs that makes McCartney special.
A lot of them we never toured with. A lot of them we just recorded, and by the time we were ready to kind of tour with them, we'd broken up as a touring band, and we're just recording. So things like Hey Jude and Sgt. Pepper and Fool on the Hill are like brand new songs to me. It's very nice. It's all a blur. They say if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. Yeah, no, I don't actually. I just remember loving it and loving the tour that we did, you know, and I remember it's a good crowd. Okay, Channel 5, take it easy.
Well, now for a change of pace. In tonight's special assignment report, we're going to visit a lone but powerful voice crying in the night. Some might call him an after-midnight caller. As we learn in Michael Collins' world, his real name is Dale Summers, but most folks know him by his handle, the Truckin Bozo.
700 WLWT, good morning. I'm the Bozo. It's about 15 away from 2 Eastern Time as we truck on through the early morning hours. From Burns Brothers, Dave Dudley in 6 days on the road.
Well, I pulled out of Pittsburgh, rolling down that eastern seaboard.
They say he's the most listened to disc jockey in the country. They say he has as many as 9 million listeners from 38 states and 9 provinces. And every night from midnight to 5 Eastern Time or 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pacific Time, the Truckin Bozo holds court.
Hey.
What?
Is that guy for the TV station still there?
Yeah, he's around here somewhere.
Tell him to take my picture. I've never been on TV before.
Wait a minute, Freddie.
My rig's a little old, but that don't mean she's slow.
Now, it seems a trucker, no matter where he comes from, Cincinnati, Memphis, Salt Lake, or Fresno, will only listen to country music. Bozo gives him more.
Hello, White Trash.
Hi there.
How you doing this morning?
Oh, I ain't feeling too good.
Oh, cold or flu or what?
No, I think I got gas and PMS at the same time here.
I've got some of the funniest comedians in the country working on my show for free. And there's guys in Hollywood paying big bucks to get people like that to do funny lines for them on TV, and I get them for free.
I'm trying to coordinate things.
Try to what?
Coordinate them.
Yeah.
You know, people can coordinate their colors to make a room all pretty, you know.
It all started back in 1960 at a little Cincinnati FM station, WAEF, and since then...
I counted it up a few weeks ago. I've worked at 48 radio stations. But I did it because I wanted to. I had fun. I enjoyed it.
I want to dedicate that song to my husband, I Love You All Over Again.
Okay.
His name is Steve, and he's a truck driver.
But after some 30 years, he's found his audience, and the hours don't bother him a bit.
For most guys, this is the graveyard shift, and they're like buried, but you don't see it like that at all, do you?
Why would I want any other shift? I can be heard all over the country. I've got friends that I've met in places that I never even heard of.
Friends on the move, and the Truckin Bozo has a lot of them.
Just remember, if it weren't for these trucks, everything you've got in your home and use in everyday life traveled on a truck at some point along the way, and that's it. And the people of America need to know that. Am I right?
You're right! 6 days on the road, and I'm gonna make it home.
Michael Collins, News Channel 5, on the night beat.
You know, the last thing he said is the most relevant if you listen to his show. He's not just a comedian and doing a lot of jokes and stuff. He is a real lobbyist. He is a lobbyist for the trucking people.
Yeah.
When they went on strike, he kind of organized them around the country. He's a hero.
He's been organizing throughout many states and doing a lot of work, and kind of fun to listen to, too. I have to admit.
I like that name, the Truckin Bozo.
I've listened to him every now and then, you know.
I could be the commentating bozo. Huh?
I would say something about maybe you already are, but then we'd get ourselves in big trouble, wouldn't we? I wouldn't say that.
Have you ever wondered why people do some of the crazy things they do? Well, at the University of Cincinnati today, it was all for a good cause.
3 school leaders, including J.D. Brewer of the student paper, volunteered to be the victims of a pie-in-the-face contest to help Special Olympics. Some students plunked down some bucks to take their best shots. Ouch. Nothing like a little cream pie to liven up your day, and all more than $258 were collected for the Special Olympics. That is, the good thing about it is for a good cause.
Yes, and later on they did go to class.
I think so.
In case their parents are watching. Next on News Channel 5.
In northern Kentucky, there are some strange things going on, and some strange things are going on at the most popular country music bars in the area. The people at Bobby Mackey's are getting used to not only playing country music, but also telling ghost stories. As we learn in Michael Collins' world, they swear they're more than just stories.
There was a time when Bobby Mackey's was known for drinking, dancing, a little pool, and a lot of games like Mr. Muscle Arm Wrestler and, of course, the famous Bull Rider. But over the last couple of years, something more has been added. Just ask Carl Lawson, the caretaker. More than once, he's been in the basement and seen things he's never seen before.
There was 2 men that was hanging here, just like there was gallows.
Walk along the banks of the Licking River behind the bar, and Doug Hensley will tell you a history of the occult, which he's written about in his book, Terror at Music World.
I learned that satanic worshipers still today worship the devil along the Licking River because it flows north.
Around this area here?
Right here behind Bobby Mackey's nightclub.
How long has this been going on?
Since the early 1800s.
No, many people say Bobby Mackey's is not the place you want to be left alone in when people leave at night.
From dishes flying, glasses flying off the bar, bar stools, chairs being knocked over, people being attacked, their names being called, and people being possessed.
In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth and on the authority of God's Word, I command Charlie, I command Sam.
People like Carl himself, who spent 3 days going through an exorcism. A recent national TV show brought in a well-known psychic who claims there are 6 ghosts here, one of which was named Pearl Bryant.
And I learned that there was a girl, Pearl Bryant, who was beheaded in 1896 by Alonzo Walling and Scott Jackson. Her head has never been found to this day. On the gallows, both men refused, even after they were offered a life sentence opposed to death, with the ropes on their neck. Both men refused to tell where her head is.
For a while after Carl's exorcism, things seemed to quiet down around here, but now the visions and the incidents are happening again.
Are they here right now?
Yes, they are.
Are they watching us?
Yes, they are.
Are they listening to us?
They're listening to every word I'm saying there.
The bottom line is the psychics and the people who have been dealing with these spirits or ghosts or demons or whatever they are all agree they're not going to go away, and no one knows where they'll show up next. Michael Collins, News Channel 5 tonight.
Ooh. And Michael was pretty shaken.
When he came back, I mean, he was, I mean, no joking around. He was kind of worried about
Little
being there.
spooky there.
How do you think they felt when Mike showed up?
Even worse.
It's not approved by the FAA, but News 5's Laura Randall decided to give it a try anyway. It's called Tandem skydiving. In tandem, 2 jumpers are strapped to each other, sharing one chute.
The beauty of it is only one jumper needs to know the ropes. The other just goes along for the ride. Tonight we go to Skydive Greene County in Xenia to join Laura on the ride of her life.
This is it. A shack in a cornfield. It's not really confidence-inspiring.
One no-no in the whole jump, and I don't know if I mentioned it before or not, but don't grab my hands. We'll both die. I want those snug around your legs. I don't want them cutting off circulation, but I want them pretty snug so they're not shifting around. I want these snapped a little bit behind your shoulders. So what I'll do first is, there is the main parachute in this bottom half, and in the top half, which I can't reach, there is a reserve that's as big as the main. The little orange knob here is the drogue handle. That will stabilize us, and it'll also slow us down. If we didn't have that, 2 people in free fall with the same surface area and twice the weight would fall at about 170 or 80 miles an hour.
Oh, how fast are we going to go?
This drogue will slow us down to about 110, 120.
Oh.
Your right shoulder is hooked up. Your right safety is hooked up.
I like that sound.
You'll take this and you'll pull straight ahead on the right one. A little bit on the left one.
Okay.
Let's go.
No, we are buddies, aren't we?
We are that. We're ready for a long free-fall skydive.
Tandem master, tandem slave. It was,
you got it.
It was great.
An excellent jump, and excellent photography by Ron Schmidt and everything. Wonderful.
To Laura and Ron, I've been here 10 years. That's as good as stories I've seen put together on the air. That was superb.
Excellent.
Not anything I want to try, but
You loved watching it.
Yes.